Today's book of the day is Elon Musk by Ashlee Vance. And as some of you may know, Elon actually has another biography that's out now, which is written by Walter Isaacson. But, love him or hate him, he's a very interesting character. And this book is interesting because, it was published almost 10 years ago now. And it really gives a different insight into Elon than the Walter Isaacson book does because, people have seen Elon's success now, but in 2015 it wasn't nearly as certain as it is today. Tesla wasn't a $1 trillion company. SpaceX was not as big as it currently is. And, it gave a different perspective on what Elon's earlier life was like because Musk, in his biography that was written by Walter Isaacson, it's more, personal anecdotes of his, but this, is from a different perspective, and you hear some of the things that his friends say about him, some of the things that his first girlfriend say about him. And one story that's interesting that's early on in the book is when Elon is in college, he's, he grown up in South Africa, then moved to Canada and was going to college, and he was he was always entrepreneurial, and one of his first ventures was he started building desktop computers for people. He would get the parts online, assemble them, and then bring people the finished product. And he said while he had success with that, he was also doing other things, installing software for people, and he said basically in general that he was just solving people's problems for them. And this is a big insight for me early on in the book because it's kind of indicative of how Elon's path continues throughout his life. Because if you boil, his future companies down to one single idea, it really is about solving problems, whether it's, extraplanetary life on places other than the Earth that we live, or it's the sustainable energy that he's so passionate about with Tesla and, using electric cars to power the future. Or it was his startup X.com, not Twitter. This at the time was more of a financial services company that eventually merged with PayPal. And, that company was was founded in order to solve the problem of, online transactions with money being sent back and forth. So, each step of Elon's career really just boils down to solving problems, and it seems like they've gotten bigger and bigger since, when he just started installing software and troubleshooting on people's computers. But it's really interesting because, any business is really all that is. It's just solving problems for people and, charging money for it. And it's often been said, and I think it was actually said by Elon, that you get paid in proportion to the difficulty of the problems that you're solving. And it seems to be true. I mean, he's the richest man in modern history, that's for sure. And he solved some major problems, or at least is in the process of them, whether it was with PayPal or with Tesla and the renewable energy, and making cars autonomous, which is something else that he's working on. Or, life beyond this earth is a huge problem that people first see us having, and he's chosen to tackle it head on. And that was another lesson, from this book. They told a story about when he was younger, he'd gone on a biking trip with a couple of his friends, and they were mountain biking up this mountain, and his friends were having a really difficult time doing the climb, and Elon at the time was not in very good shape, but he really just put his all into it. And while his friends dropped behind and were taking breaks, Elon just hammered to the top and gave it his all. And his friends thought he was going to kill himself because he was trying so hard. But that's the type of person that Elon is. Like, he won't give up until he's dead. And there was a famous interview on 60 Minutes when, he had a couple rocket crashes, and they had asked him, after that, after the most recent crash, did you ever think, about packing it in, about giving up? And, Elon kind of got emotional, and he said no, like, he never did. And, the interviewer asked him why not, and he said, well, I'd either have to be dead or completely incapacitated. Like, giving up is not an option for him. And in this book, he mentions that, you know, he would rather commit seppuku, you know, like a Japanese samurai, than admit defeat. So that's another aspect of his success, is that he never gave up, and he's had setbacks along the way with every single one of his companies. He's had a lot of critics over the years, you know, demean his companies, short sell his stock, yet he continues, you know, to push forward. And that's a lesson that we can all use, because oftentimes, you know, we're discouraged. I've been discouraged by, you know, failures along the way. But if you zoom out, you know, you can look at your own life, and I can look at mine and see times in the past when we failed. And when you zoom in, you go into that moment and you think to yourself, you know, at the time you probably thought it was the end of the world, or that, you know, you weren't going to be able to recover from it. And now, you know, sometimes it's tough to even remember those moments, because you just brushed them off and you moved on. So that's something else that, you know, has made Elon as successful as he is that he, even though he's undergone and has gone through and will continue to go through many failures, if you don't give up, if you don't quit, you know, you'll get past it. And there really isn't anything so insurmountable that you can't fix over time. And some things will take longer than others to fix or to recover from. But keeping in mind that, you know, failure happens to all of us is important, because, you know, even the most successful people in the world have failed at times. And, you know, Elon said that, you know, he had this drive that he had to get things done, that if he didn't do it, he'd miss his shot. And like I mentioned before, he said, my mentality is that of a samurai. I would rather commit seppuku than fail. And at Elon's first company that he started, it was called Zip2, and it was basically a company that was helping other companies get online and you know, give themselves a digital presence. And he had come up with the idea because someone from Yellow Pages had called him, and he had a smaller startup at the time, and, you know, they wanted to put his company online, but they weren't really good with their pitch, and Elon understood that they didn't understand how the internet worked. So Elon was able to take, you know, what was a half-baked idea from the Yellow Pages and make it into a real business idea on his own end, with his own expertise and his own insight. And, you know, some people may call that stealing, but at the end of the day, he took something that wasn't working so well and made it better. And he was eventually able to sell the company for over $300 million to Compaq, which, you know, eventually became part of Hewlett-Packard. And after that, he started X.com, which at the time, like I mentioned, was you know, for online payments, and that eventually merged with PayPal. And, you know, following PayPal, started Tesla, and then, well, bought Tesla to be specific. And from there, you know, eventually started SpaceX. But this book has so many interesting stories, and, you know, one of the early ones about X.com was, you know, Elon had also had a job at a bank at one point, and he had done all this analysis on his own time, and he had found out that, you know, there was an arbitrage opportunity where he could buy, you know, one security and sell it at another price, and it was basically going to be risk-free for the firm, and there was no downside. And Elon had spent all summer researching this, and at the end of the summer, he mustered up the courage to bring this to the executives. And when he brought it to them, they basically turned it down. And this was an important realization for Elon, because he saw that, you know, these established companies were, you know, they were very stuck in their ways. And he said, later in life, as I competed against the banks, I would think back to this moment, and it gave me confidence. All the bankers did was copy what everyone else did. And that's often true whether you're a banker or, you know, really any business, because, you know, there is nothing new under the sun. For the most part, most things have been thought of and most things have been, you know, conceived of before, but it's putting different twists on them and different spins on things that makes a big difference. And if you allow yourself to be open to opportunities that, you know, aren't exactly in your wheelhouse or aren't exactly what you've always been doing, it can really be profitable for you, you know. And that's true in your personal life, you know, whether it's going out to some event that you'd never been to before, but you were invited to. It could open up all different opportunities for you personally, or if there's a business event or a business opportunity that gets presented to you that's outside of what you've always done, you never know what that could turn into. So the importance of being open to new ideas is huge, because sometimes just by being closed off, you miss things that would otherwise amplify your life and your career or even your business. And Elon was also infamous because when he was graduating college, he had told a bunch of people that he really had 3 visions for the future. And one of them was that the internet was going to play a large role in society and the economy going forward. And this was in the late 1990s, which he certainly got right, because it's taken off. And as you're watching this through the internet, it's really become a pillar of our lives that many of us, myself included, would probably have a difficult time living without. And the second big idea that he had at the time that he felt needed to be addressed was renewable energy, and how that was going to be a part of our future, that we have all these finite resources on Earth, but we need to come up with ways to harness the energy of the sun, for example, and rechargeable energy in order to fuel human society going forward. And the third was that he felt that space and space exploration was going to be really important in the future as demographics shifted, and as humans on Earth sought to live somewhere else beyond our single planet and perhaps even beyond our solar system. And that's what I want to leave you with today, because Elon, for all his faults and all his failures, he has been very successful in life, at least monetarily so. And he's created these huge successful businesses, and it all came off the back of having this vision that he began with. He had sat down and spent plenty of time contemplating what he thought was important. And after coming up with the internet, with renewable energy, and with space exploration as 3 important things that needed to be addressed, he's done exactly what he felt needed to be done. And you can see today the success he's had because of it. And we can all take that lesson and take some time out of our week this week to sit down for a few minutes, for 5, 10, 20 minutes even, without our phones, and just think about where we see the future heading and what trends we think are going to be big. Because Elon did that back when he was in college, and it clearly paid off, because his 3 biggest successes were in those 3 spaces. And now, of course, that he's taken over Twitter and renamed it X.com, he's clearly betting on the internet once again. So I hope you found today's book review helpful. Elon Musk by Ashlee Vance. And I'm looking forward to coming to you tomorrow again with another book review. Thank you.